music review. This is Best of Cream by Cream, and it was the first compilation album by the band, and it arrived at about the time that the band was breaking up. But it's significant in my musical library because it was the first LP record that I ever bought back in 1969. I was 15 years of age. I started a bit late. I had bought a few singles, but this was the first one. And of course it's an iconic album. It features tracks from Disraeli Gears, Wheels of Fire, and a number of singles that the band released. And so for me, it was a perfect introduction to the likes of what we regarded at the time as progressive rock. Of course, Messrs. Clapton, Bruce and Baker had been around before, a long time before for many, and it's important to note that their musical introductions for Clapton came via the Yardbirds, via John Mayall, and for Bruce he also came via John Mayall and Graham Bond, and he met Baker there, and they gathered together and became known as the first supergroup, and they released their first album, Fresh Cream, in late 1967, it was recorded in 66, released in 1967, and a remarkable piece of work it was too. But they then followed on with Disraeli Gears and Wheels of Fire, and then I had a couple of other albums, Live Cream and Goodbye, before the notable Best Of. So I'm going to talk about it. It means a lot to me, my first album, and so we're going to talk about it shortly. Track one, right into it, was Sunshine of Your Love. Now, Sunshine of Your Love, well, what an iconic song. It first appeared on Disraeli Gears, and it's a tremendous piece of music. I love the guitar solo in the middle from Eric, and Bruce pushing the bass with Baker's drums. It's 4 minutes of absolute mesmerising rock music, and I really can't get used to not listening to it. I'm never bored with it. So to track two, which is Badge. This is my all-time favourite Cream song. It first appeared on Goodbye. Of course, it's written by George Harrison and Eric Clapton and sang by Eric. The guitar work on here is absolutely mesmerising. There's a chord sort of rhythm in the middle, which is pure Beatles, and then there's a guitar solo that goes through the roof from Eric. It's only a few minutes long, less than 3, but it encapsulates for me the tremendous power and confidence that this band were for the short duration, and I will be forever grateful for the fact that these three guys opened the door to a new world of music, having been brought up on a dosage of 2-minute bop singles. So there we have it, Badge. What an enormous piece of music, and I absolutely love it. So to track 3 then, and it's Crossroads. This was recorded live at the Winterland in San Francisco in March 1968. If you are an appreciative soul of the lead guitar, this is the one that you need to listen to. Possibly Eric's finest hour, although a lot of people would go with Layla, but the explosive lead guitar playing on this Robert Johnson arranged blues song, by Eric and the band is absolutely awesome. The rhythm section, worth a note, bass guitar, rock bass guitar played like I've never heard it before by Jack, and keeping pace with him was the magical Baker on drums, and then out front Eric on lead guitar and vocals, a completely mesmerising piece of work. I never get sick of listening to this track. The speed of the guitar work is beyond imagination, and he has always been regarded as godlike, and it had that nickname, of course, but when you actually listen very carefully and closely to the work of the man, it's quite phenomenal. So that's track 3 then, Crossroads. White Room is track 4, and it's a combination, it's a song that was written by the combination of Jack Bruce and Pete Brown on Wheels of Fire. Immaculate vocals from Jack. It's a sad tale, and there's an extraordinary bit of wah-wah guitar in the middle from Eric. Once again, a high quality track, a band favourite, and fittingly continuing the high quality on this first side. Swallowbur is the next track, and it's written by Bruce and Brown. They collaborated quite a lot on Cream material, and this is 2.5 minutes of real fuzzy sort of rock music. It turned up on a B-side to one of their singles, and it's certainly a hellraiser, 100 mile an hour, and very listenable. On to side 2 then, we open up with Born Under a Bad Sign. This is a choice of Eric's, and he contributed 2 blues songs to this album. What a surprise. And this one was written by Booker T. Jones and William Bell, and became a famous song for Albert King. And in many ways Eric's solo is almost an identical of King's excerpt, and it's a pretty strong track by all accounts. It's really very much part and parcel of what Eric Clapton represents, and I love it. Next up is the blues song written by Willie Dixon, Spoonful. It was first recorded in 1960 by Howlin' Wolf, and what a tour de force it is. It's a blues, well, what else? 6 minutes plus. It arrived on Fresh Cream and also appeared on a live version on Disraeli's Gear, where it was almost 15 minutes long. It really is a truly prolific piece of blues, with Eric, of course, shining in game, but also some exquisite harmonica playing from Jack amidst his passionate vocals. Of course, the song has a bit of history. It's loosely based on a Spoonful blues recorded in 1929 by Charlie Patton, and it's basically relates to men's sometimes violent search to satisfy their cravings, with a spoonful used mostly as a metaphor for pleasures, which has been interpreted as sex, love and drugs and alcohol. Lyrically, let's have a listen. It could be a spoonful of coffee, it could be a spoonful of tea, but one little spoon of your precious love is good enough for me. Men lies about that spoonful, some of them dies about that spoonful, some of them cries about that spoonful, but everybody fight about that spoonful. Absolutely terrific. Next up then is Tales of Brave Ulysses. It was released as a B-side to Strange Brew, but also appeared on Disraeli Gears. And it was basically the first time that we heard the wah-wah pedal being used by Eric. Its earliest use, so it's significant in that respect. Also, It came about as a result of a collaboration between Eric Clapton and artist Martin Sharp. Now, Sharp had been inspired by Eric had been inspired by the music by Loving Spoonful called Summer in the City, and it was also an influence for Sharp when he decided to construct a poem. The poem and the music fitted together, and that became Tales of Brave Ulysses. Of course, it relates to the colourful rendering of the great Greek tragedy Ulysses. Next up was Strange Brew. First appeared as a single in June 1967 and later appeared on Disraeli Gears. It was significant in as much that it had Eric on lead vocals. He didn't do too much singing in those days, and on this song he's got a falsetto style, which was quite unusual. Lots of Albert King guitar influences on here, and it was a nice little pop song, really. A minor hit for the band, came in at 2:45. Nice stuff. So to wrap things up, the final track on this Best of Cream was I Feel Free, a very successful single released in 1966, combining blues, rock and psychedelic pop. It really took the world by storm, and what a lovely jauntily laden song it is, with Bruce's vocals enabling us to skip along merrily, tapping our feet to Baker's drum beat, and of course Eric occasionally coming in with a little zip of lead guitar. It was a breath of fresh air. We hadn't heard anything like this before in the singles chart, and it of course became a platform for which they launched themselves into a huge career as the big supergroup. So that's my take anyway on the album Best of Cream. I will also add a little snippet in a second, looking at the lyrical content of the album. So here's a summary of my thoughts with regard to the lyrics to the tracks on Best of Cream. I usually add them at the end of my summary of the tracks, but sorry about that. I did make a couple of comments, I think, about Spoonful. But anyway, here we go. Sunshine of Your Love. Well, it's just a love song, basically. Badge. Well, that's a sort of nostalgic look at a past love, I feel. Written by Harrison, of course. Crossroads, written by Robert Johnson. Well, the interpretation of his lyric was the meeting of the devil at the crossroads and selling your soul so that you can play the guitar. I'm not going to quibble with that. White Room, lyrics by Pete Brown again. He talked about this as a place where he was able to reevaluate his own life with regard to a relationship issue and the use of drugs. So again, I'm not going to add anything more to that. Born Under a Bad Sign, it's a bit self-explanatory really. It's about the unlucky life situations that have started in childhood, and you get to a place where you just feel nothing is going for you. Strange Blue, I think this is a psychedelic type lyric, possibly LSD, drugs induced. Maybe wrong on that. Taylor Brave Ulysses, of course, regarding the Greek legend Ulysses, who travelled to foreign lands and found it awfully difficult to get back home because of the newfound love and interest in those places, and of course an attachment to a new woman. We have references to Aphrodite, the goddess of love. So a romantic vision of foreign lands. written by Martin Sharp, and certainly a lyric that I can identify with, having left my shores back in 1993, and we're 26 years on and I still haven't got back. Swallowber, it's another relationship that looks great on the surface but also has something that's not quite right. Spoonful, I've mentioned, I'll mention it again, the desire for a small amount of love and what people will do to get it. Very powerful song by Willie Dixon. And I Feel Free, Brown wrote this again, and it again captures that change in feeling that took place in the mid-60s, maybe drug-induced, but maybe just that free spirit. Okay, so that's my take on the lyrics on this album. Hardly sort of major in their interpretation, but that's what I feel anyway.